Every story has a turning point, a moment when everything changes. The turning point.
I used to think marriage was supposed to get easier with time, like a well-worn pair of shoes, less friction, more comfort. But lately, my marriage felt more like walking barefoot across glass, quiet, painful, and full of little cuts I couldn't quite see. It started with small things, things I told myself didn't matter, like my underwear going missing from the laundry. Just one or two pieces at first, then my favorite lace bra, a pair of silk shorts I wore to bed. I assumed I'd misplaced them. Maybe the washer ate them, or they slipped behind the drawer. You know, the usual excuses we give ourselves when we don't want to ask questions. Then I noticed my husband locking the basement door. We've lived in this house for 8 years. That door was never locked before. I laughed the first time I caught him with the key in his hand. "What's down there? A secret man cave?" I joked. He didn't laugh. "Just tools and junk. Nothing you'd care about, how do you?" he said, way too fast. The next day I tried the doorknob. Still locked. Still nothing I'd care about. I started paying attention. He always made excuses to go downstairs when I was in the shower, or cooking, or on a Zoom call. And every time I asked what he was doing, he'd say, "Organizing stuff." Organizing what? Old paint cans? The only thing my husband has ever organized well is his Spotify playlists. One night, I pretended to fall asleep early. I even set up a soft breathing rhythm. Sure enough, 15 minutes later, I heard the basement door creak open. He didn't turn on the lights in the hallway, just slipped downstairs in the dark. I waited 5 minutes, then quietly followed. But by the time I got to the door, it was locked again. I stood there barefoot in my robe, my heart thudding like a hammer in my chest. I felt ridiculous, like some paranoid housewife in a bad TV drama. But something didn't feel right. The next morning I asked him again, "What's going on down there really?" He didn't look up from his phone. "Babe, please, you're overthinking again?" Overthinking, that's what he always says when he wants me to stop digging. That same day, I found a small black object wedged between the headboard and our bed frame. It was no bigger than a thumb drive. I wouldn't have noticed it if I hadn't dropped my earring. I picked it up, turned it in my fingers. It had a tiny red light on one side and a lens, a camera. I didn't say a word. I placed it back exactly where I found it. Then I went into the bathroom and stared at myself in the mirror for a long, long time. Was this some kind of fantasy thing? A kink he was too embarrassed to talk about? Or was it something else entirely? I didn't know it yet, but that little camera would unravel everything. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there with my back to him, eyes wide open, pretending to breathe softly. His arm was draped over my waist, like nothing had changed, like I hadn't just discovered a hidden camera aimed at our bed. He snored lightly, his breath steady. Meanwhile, my thoughts spun like a carousel on fire. The next morning, I went through the motions. Coffee, toast, a distracted smile when he kissed my cheek. But I wasn't really there. I was watching him. Every movement, every pause, every excuse he made to leave the room. At one point, he said, "I'm gonna head to Home Depot later. You need anything?" I shook my head. Number just, "Don't forget the trash bags. We're out." He smiled and walked out like it was any other day. The moment the door closed, I locked it behind him. I had exactly 45 minutes, maybe less. I grabbed my phone and took a photo of the little black device between the bed frame and the wall. Then I pulled out a chair and stood on it, inspecting every corner of the bedroom. One inside the vent, one tucked behind a fake smoke detector, another behind the lamp on my nightstand, 3 more cameras. This wasn't curiosity, this wasn't some kink. This was surveillance. And the more I thought about it, the more pieces started falling into place. Every time I cried in the bedroom, he'd appear minutes later with tea or soft words. Every time I mumbled something to myself, He'd reference it later, like he'd been reading my mind. It used to feel sweet. Now it felt calculated. I searched the rest of the house. Nothing in the bathroom, nothing in the kitchen. But when I opened the hallway closet, something metallic caught my eye, tucked high on the shelf behind an old blanket. It was a small lockbox, not big, just enough to hold documents or electronics. I brought it to the kitchen and tried to open it, but of course it was locked. That didn't stop me. I Googled how to pick a basic lock with a paperclip. It took longer than I'd like to admit, but I got it open. Inside were two external hard drives, both labeled with a date range: 2018 to 2020 and 2020 to present. I didn't touch them. Not yet. My heart was already pounding too hard. Instead, I took pictures of everything, inside and out, and returned it to the exact spot I found it. Then I cleaned up the mess and checked the time. He was due back any minute. I sat on the couch, pretending to scroll my phone, trying to act normal when I heard the key in the door. He came in with a bag from the store and a big smile. "You'll be proud of me," he said. I remembered the trash bags. I laughed, a little too loudly. "Look at you, husband of the year." He set the bag down and stretched. "You okay? You look pale." "Just a headache, didn't sleep well." He frowned, came over and pressed his hand to my forehead. "You're not warm. Want me to make you some tea?" Tea. Of course. "No thanks," I said softly. "I just need to lie down for a bit." As he turned to the kitchen, I slipped back into the bedroom. I stared at the vent, at the tiny black eye staring back. And for the first time in our marriage, I felt like prey. The next morning, he left early for work. He said he had a meeting downtown and probably wouldn't be home until late. Perfect. As soon as I heard his car pull away, I went straight to the hallway closet. My hands shook as I reached for the lockbox. I hesitated, just for a second, but then I pulled it out, placed it on the kitchen table, and picked the lock again. It opened faster this time. My fingers already knew the motions. 2 hard drives. No labels beyond the dates. I took the one marked 2020 to present, plugged it into my laptop, and waited. A folder appeared. Main feed. Inside, dozens of video files, each labeled by date and time. I clicked on the most recent. The video loaded instantly. There I was, sitting on the edge of the bed, reading a book, wearing an old oversized t-shirt and pajama shorts. The angle was wide, showing most of the room. The timestamp read 10:18 p.m. last night. I watched myself reach for a glass of water, rub my temple, lie back with a sigh. Nothing dramatic, nothing intimate. But the longer I watched, the more disturbing it felt. The footage had no sound, just the sterile, clinical quiet of a surveillance feed. And yet, there was something deeply violating about it. I paused the video, scrolled back a day, then another, then another. Every night, every morning, every movement in that room, recorded. Sometimes I was changing clothes. Sometimes I was crying. Sometimes I was just staring at the ceiling in the dark, thinking I was alone. I clicked another folder. Bathroom. Archived. My stomach turned. I didn't open it. Instead, I checked the file sizes. Hundreds of gigabytes. Carefully cataloged, organized, dated. This wasn't spontaneous. This wasn't for fun. It was a system. I clicked one more folder out of morbid curiosity. Early files. The dates stretched back over 3 years. Some files were labeled with my name. Others weren't. That's when I saw it. A file labeled Amanda Guest Room 2019. Amanda, my college friend. She stayed with us for a few days that summer. We hadn't spoken since. Another file. Cleaning Lucy. Lucy, our housekeeper. A wave of nausea hit me. This wasn't about me. It was about control. I pulled the drive out of the laptop and wiped down the cable with a cloth. Then I packed everything back into the lockbox, locked it, and returned it to the closet. For the rest of the day, I couldn't eat, couldn't sit still. My hands kept trembling. That night, I watched him walk through the front door like nothing was wrong. He smiled, took off his shoes, asked if I wanted to order Thai food. I looked at him and realized he has no idea I know. And for now, that was my only advantage. It had been 4 days since I found the hard drive. 4 days of pretending, of forcing myself to smile when he joked, nod when he spoke, touch his hand when he reached for mine. I hated every second of it, but I needed time, time to think, time to plan. I started looking into hidden camera detection apps, read forums, learned how signal blockers worked. Every night I slept with a baseball bat tucked under the bed. And still, I couldn't breathe. Then the letter arrived. No return address, just my name, handwritten on the envelope. No postage stamp. It had been slipped through the front door slot, sometime between noon and 1 p.m. I was upstairs folding laundry. Inside, one single line, typed on plain white paper. "You look beautiful when you sleep." That's all it said. No name, no signature, just that one line. And I felt my blood turn cold. It wasn't from him. His style was too clumsy, too careless. This felt deliberate, clean, like a message from someone watching both of us. I reread the note 5 times. Then I checked the house. Every camera I knew about was still in place. I hadn't touched them since the day I found them. I wanted to preserve everything exactly as it was, for evidence. But this meant someone else had access. Someone else had seen those recordings. I checked the locks, every door, every window. I even opened the attic hatch just to be sure. Then I sat on the couch, gripping the paper, and cried for the first time since it all began. That night, I said I was tired and went to bed early. He kissed me on the forehead, told me he'd clean up the dishes. I nodded, forced a smile, and locked the bedroom door behind me. I didn't sleep. Instead, I pulled out my laptop and ran a full system scan. Nothing. I checked the Wi-Fi logs. There were multiple unknown devices that had connected in the last month. One was labeled NXCAM4. My throat tightened. I dug deeper, looked up the model. It was a type of miniature network camera, capable of streaming live footage remotely. Live. This wasn't just recording. Someone had been watching me in real time. That's when I remembered. 2 weeks ago, I'd been in the bedroom, dancing around in a towel after a shower, just being silly, alone. At least, I thought I was. A sick feeling bloomed in my stomach. He wasn't just filming me. He might have been sharing it. And someone, somewhere, liked it enough to send me a personal note. I waited until Saturday. He always went for a long jog on weekends, an hour and a half, sometimes more. It was the one window I could count on without raising suspicion. The moment he left, I ran to the hallway closet and pulled out the lockbox again. This time, I took both hard drives. I didn't plug them into my personal laptop. I knew better now. Instead, I pulled out an old Chromebook from the garage, one I hadn't used in years, wiped clean, never synced to anything. No cloud, no history, no trace. I powered it up, disconnected the Wi-Fi, and plugged in the older drive. 2018 to 2020. The folder structure was disturbing. Kitchen night and bathroom archive, changing room guests. Guests. That one froze me. I opened it. There were videos of women I barely remembered. A woman who came to do a home estimate. A friend of a friend who stayed the night after a party. My cousin, my sister. All filmed. Then I noticed a small text file in the root directory. Just one line. Upload batch complete. 3:12 a.m. Uploaded? Where? My heart started pounding again. I reconnected the Wi-Fi, but only for a moment. Just enough to access the logs. I looked at the history, and there it was, langleyshare.net/user/redacted/profile/feeds/live. I copied the URL and disconnected instantly. I didn't click it. I didn't want to give away that someone else had accessed the data. But it was enough. I opened a separate device, went into private mode, and searched for langleyshare.net. It didn't appear on Google, didn't show up on Bing, but on a forum buried in the darkest corners of the web, I found a thread. Langley Share. Invite only network for curated live feeds. Extreme discretion required. Not for amateurs. I felt sick. This wasn't just my husband being twisted. This was organized. A system. I scrolled through the forum thread. Dozens of anonymous users discussed encryption methods, signal bouncing, donation wallets. And then I saw a user named NX Observer 4 posting images of a room that looked disturbingly familiar. My room, my bed, my life. Blurred, yes, but unmistakable. The caption read, "Classic material. Wife still hasn't noticed. Posted 2 months ago." I dropped the phone. My hands were slick with sweat. The Chromebook screen went dark from inactivity. I stared at the blank monitor and realized I wasn't just being watched. I'd been shared, used. And maybe the note I received wasn't a threat. Maybe it was a compliment from a fan. Sunday afternoon, I told him I was going to visit my sister overnight. "She's been feeling down," I said casually. "I think she just needs some girl time. I'll be back tomorrow." He looked up from his phone, surprised. "Oh, that's sudden." I smiled. "I already packed. Thought I'd surprise her." He paused, nodded, and gave me a quick hug. "Okay, yeah, that's sweet. Drive safe." No questions, no hesitation. I walked out the front door with a small duffel bag and drove 5 blocks away, parked behind a grocery store, and walked back to the house using the alley. I'd left the back window in the laundry room unlocked that morning. I slipped inside quietly, heart pounding. Upstairs, I had already set everything up. An old phone was hidden in my bedroom closet, screen recording app running. Another was taped under the dining table, camera pointed at the living room. Both were on silent, both recording. I crawled into the attic through the hatch in our hallway and pulled the panel closed behind me. It was hot, cramped, dusty. But I waited. An hour passed, then another. At 7:42 p.m., I heard the front door open. I held my breath. Footsteps. Male. Then a voice. Not his. Female. I inched toward the vent, peeking through the slats just enough to hear. The voices were muffled, but I caught enough. "You said she was gone for the night." "She is. Relax. Come on." I recognized her voice. Barely. She sounded young, maybe early 20s. I couldn't place her face, but the tone. It was nervous. Hesitant. Then, "I don't want to do this again. Last time was too weird." A pause. "You don't have to do anything. Just let me set it up. You're beautiful. They'll love you." They, not me, not I. They. My entire body tensed. She walked past the hallway. Brown hair, small frame, a tight black dress. She looked uncomfortable, fidgety. He followed, carrying a small black case. They entered the bedroom. I heard him opening drawers, clipping something. She stood near the door, arms crossed. Then I heard her say, almost whispering, "Will they know it's me?" And he answered, "They won't see your face unless I want them to." I almost vomited. I stayed in that attic, barely moving, as they stayed below for over an hour. I heard laughter, then silence, then footsteps again, back toward the front door. At 9:11 p.m., the door closed. I waited another 30 minutes before crawling out, every muscle shaking. I checked the cameras. The footage was crystal clear. Him, her, the setup, his face, calm and confident, showing her how to stand, her discomfort, his instructions, every minute recorded. I backed everything up to the cloud, twice. Then I stared at the laptop, unable to move. This wasn't about me anymore. It never was. This was a pattern, a network, and if I didn't act soon, someone else was going to get hurt. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at the kitchen table until the sky began to lighten, staring at the screen, the footage still playing on loop. Him, her, his hands on the camera, her nervous laugh. I knew what I had to do. The next morning, while he was in the shower, I faked a migraine and said I'd be working from home. By 9 a.m., he was gone. I didn't waste a second. First, I backed everything up again to 2 encrypted flash drives, one hidden in the lining of my purse, the other inside an old cereal box in the pantry. Then I started editing the footage. Not all of it, just enough to tell the story. I blurred my face in every frame that showed me, cropped anything too intimate, muted the sound where my voice came through. I wasn't going to let him shame me into silence. I wasn't the one who needed to hide. I pulled up a burner email account I'd created weeks ago, just in case. 2. Tips@exposurepress.org, subject: Urgent, private surveillance ring, involving unwitting women. Body: I have evidence of an organized system involving hidden cameras, non-consensual footage, and possible distribution of private material. One of the men involved lives in Orlando. His name is Tom. Redacted. I'm attaching redacted footage, metadata logs, screenshots of related web forums, and recorded audio. Please protect the identity of the source. This is not just my story. This is bigger. And it's still happening. I attached everything. My hands trembled, but I hit send. Then I waited. By noon, I had a response. We've reviewed the files. This is serious. A journalist will reach out within the hour. Please stay safe. They didn't ask for my name, didn't push for more. They knew exactly what they were looking at. That night, he came home smiling, like everything was normal. He kissed me on the cheek, told me I looked better. I nodded. Much better, I said. I even asked him if he wanted Thai food again. He grinned. You're reading my mind. No, Tom. You've just been reading mine for far too long. I watched him eat pad thai and talk about his day while the journalist and her legal team reviewed the case. I watched him talk about remodeling the basement while a national story was quietly building behind the scenes. By the next morning, the article dropped. It didn't mention my name, or my face, or my house, but it mentioned a man in Orlando, suspected of installing unauthorized surveillance on his wife and multiple guests, tied to a private network of voyeuristic distribution. The article had screenshots, blurry but clear enough. The thread exploded online. By noon, he knew. He saw the story, read the comments, went pale, and then he turned to me. You've seen this? He asked, voice shaking. I looked him dead in the eyes. I wrote it. He didn't say a word after that, just stared at me, pale, unmoving. Then he stood up, walked to the sink, and turned on the faucet, like he needed to do something with his hands. I waited. Finally, he said, "You have no idea what you've done." And I answered, "No." You had no idea what I could do. By evening, the police were at our door. Not just local, federal agents, 2 plainclothes officers. Quiet, calm, serious. They had a warrant. He barely resisted. Maybe part of him was relieved it was over. Or maybe he thought he could talk his way out of it. But he couldn't. They found the cameras, the hard drives, the access logs, the evidence I hadn't even seen yet. And they found more. An encrypted laptop hidden in a false bottom drawer in the basement. Something even I hadn't known about. Inside, chat logs, payment transactions, invitations to something called NDS. No one would tell me what NDS meant. Not officially. But one officer gave me a look when I asked, like he knew I didn't really want the answer. Later, a journalist followed up with me. The story had gone viral. Dozens of women from different states came forward. Wives, ex-girlfriends, even tenants, recognizing rooms, voices, gestures. Some had never known they were being filmed. Others had suspected but couldn't prove it. Now they could. Tom was part of something larger, a ring of men who installed hidden cameras and streamed private footage through encrypted forums under fake names. And he wasn't even the worst of them. He was just one of the ones who got caught. The day he was formally charged, I received another envelope. No return address, just like the first. Inside, a single photo. It was a screenshot of me, blurred, just like I'd edited it. But overlaid on top, someone had typed, "We liked you better when you didn't know." That was the moment I understood. This wasn't over. Not really. They weren't just watching me. They were watching each other. And someone somewhere was still watching now. I burned the note, then I changed my name, moved to another state, started over. But sometimes when I pass a mirror, I still wonder if there's a lens behind the glass. Sometimes I speak out loud in empty rooms, just to see if anyone reacts. And sometimes, in the middle of the night, I stare into the dark corner of my ceiling and whisper, "I know you're still there, but now, so am I."
If this story moved you, there's more to come. Subscribe and don't miss the next turning point.